Hey guys, Scott here, and I think it's time we finally talk about gen rushing. Surprisingly, I've never made a video about this, but it's definitely something that I think is a problem with the community. People throw around this term way too frequently. They use it incorrectly. They use it as an excuse. And even when they are using it correctly, they're still targeting the wrong people when they're using it. So I think this is something that the community just needs to just stop saying in general. Because to me, it's like the killer entitlement equivalent of Survivor saying, you can't slug me, you can't tunnel me, you can't camp me. This is the killer basically saying, hey, well, I'm chasing this guy, don't do gens. It's the same stupid argument, and it's just dumb entitlement that needs to stop. But first, let me go with the fact that it does exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it exists in a form that most people are not attributing it towards. To me, actual gen rushing, it does exist, but it's very rare. A good example is like the whole Marth D-Pip squad thing. They were actually gen rushing. And the difference is they would intentionally let people die on hooks just to continue gens. They were basically doing everything in their power just to spite the killer, not get everybody out. And I think that's actual gen rushing, and that's shitty. It's shitty for the survivor on the hook. He doesn't get to play. It's shitty for the killer because the game is very fast. Shitty for the people doing gens because all they're doing is doing gens. So in that scenario, gen rushing does actually exist. It's just very rare that you get teams that are so sweaty they will intentionally let people die to continue doing gens. So that is not what you're complaining about most of the time. What happens most of the time is, I mean, I've seen this from everybody, rank 20 killers down to big content creators. I feel like way too many people complain about this shit, and I don't understand their reasoning. So, for example, like I'll watch a video and the person will have a rough time finding a survivor at the beginning because it's a big map or something like that. Takes them 30 seconds to find the survivor, 20 seconds for the first hit, 20 seconds for the second hit. Very fast hits. And then 10 seconds to bring him to a hook. It's been about 90 seconds. On that first hook, 3 gens pop. And then there's like, gen rush! But you gotta think about the humanity of the situation. What the fuck else were they supposed to do? You only chased one guy. The other 3 survivors had nothing else to do. Unless they were plundering or something like that, looking for items. They had nothing else to do. It's not like there's, the same ruin anymore where they have to look for totems to, start doing gens fast. There's just nothing else for survivors to do at the beginning of the match. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's fair. I'm not saying that that's a good thing that it's even possible. In fact, I've fought against that. That's why I suggested the whole trial warm-up thing, which they might be doing. So I suggested survivors should never spawn spread out. They should never spawn directly on top of gens. Because that's where the situation occurs a lot. It's when survivors spawn spread out on big maps on top of generators. That's not fair. I think survivors should always spawn together. Because then they have to make the choice. Do we do this generator very fast, but we're all in the same spot so the killer can snowball? Or do we spend the time to be more efficient and spread out, but it still takes time for everyone to walk to their, respective spots on the map? That would be more fair. When you get those rare times on Red Forest where everyone spawns spread out on a separate gen, that's bullshit. The killer can't do anything about that. I don't care if you're Nurse Billy, you just don't have the map control to do that at the beginning of the match. But that's not super frequent. And even when it is, the fact is, people say gen rush as like a derogatory term. They say it in the same vein that survivors say tunneler or camper or something like that. It's the same vitriol in their words when they're saying that. I think that's the main problem with this. That they're attributing it to the survivors when they had nothing else to do to begin with. And a lot of this is on the killers too. Like, I feel like a lot of even good killers do not realize that the most important thing you can do at the beginning of the game is to get people off generators, not down a guy immediately. Downing a guy is nice, sure, and it starts the whole snowballing process, but the priority above that is stopping people from doing gens. I can't tell you how many times I watch people, start their first chase, and they get a hit, and they really want to down that guy, and they'll walk by people doing a generator just to continue downing that guy. That is the dumbest thing you can do. It is always better to chase the people off that generator than to finish downing that guy. Because that leads into more snowballing, it saves that generator, you can down someone else, then maybe pop that generator where otherwise it might have just been done entirely. That is something killers really, I think, need to pay attention to more. It's always more important to get people off gens than it is to commit to that first down. At least at the beginning of the match. So, I think there's definitely something to be learned there for the killers. But, like I said, the fact that it's possible to begin with, is definitely an issue. But I think we should stop attributing it to the players. Because like I said, when you say gen rusher, you're not talking about, the game. You're talking about the person playing the game. You're saying this person is a gen rusher. This team they're all gen rushers. So you're talking about the players with a vitriolic negative tone when really they had no other options. It's like the same shit when you down someone, then you know they have decisive strike and you don't pick them up. You don't really have an option. Picking them up would be really, really stupid. It's a whole nother video I want to do about how people just say it's just a 5-second stun. No, it's a 5-second stun and a 20-second head start, and it's a different video. But the point is, we should not be targeting the players. And this is why I'm saying this is a community problem. We should be targeting the game itself. The fact that it's possible, and that's the only option a lot of the times, that is the issue. Now, they are working on things to combat this with the whole warm-up and things like that. But I think as a community, we can take steps to making it a better community by just stop saying that people are being gen rushers, because most of the time, they're just doing the only thing that they can do. And it's not their fault, it's the game's fault for allowing that to be a scenario. The alternative is you're expecting survivors to just spawn in and just do nothing for like 30 seconds, which, that's the same stupid entitlement that, the killers would say survivors are having. So I think we need to stop calling survivors gen rushers. I don't think it's really fair. A lot of the time it's their only option. A lot of the time the killer can actually be pushing people off gens and kind of mitigating this a bit. But there is an issue, and it is up to the game to fix it. It's not up to the community to bend around it and be nice. That's just not reasonable to ask. So overall, stop saying people are gen rushing. It's mostly the game's fault. There are being measures to make this a bit less apparent, but for now, just stop saying it. It's really annoying, and it's just the same level of entitlement that you'd bitch about a survivor saying that you're tunneling or camping. So just think about that when you're saying it. That's it, guys. See you next time.